Welcome to the Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor, and I'm also a family business advisor. In this show, we'll be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family business, this podcast is for you. Today, I actually have two guests. I have sisters. I have Dominique Waples-Trefil. Dominique left the practice of law to found RESTOR Medical Spa with her sister, Dr. Flora Waples. Dr. Flora is the founder and medical director of RESTOR Medical Spa, while her sister, Dominique, is the CEO. The RESTOR Medical Spa has grown to a dominant position in the medical aesthetics and functional medicine in the Denver market. They focus on cutting-edge aesthetic medicine and hormone replacement optimization. So I want to welcome Dominique and Dr. Flora Waples. Let's start at the beginning and tell me a little bit about how you ended up leaving law, starting a medical spa, and then I can kind of take that by Dr. Flora, that she does have a degree in chemistry and biochemistry. So, and they're sort of go, well, how does that come to a spa? So let's start at the beginning. How did you end up becoming involved in this industry?
Not only how did she become involved in the industry while she was 8 months pregnant. We should put that
Yeah.
in.
Oh,
Yeah, that was so one pregnancy brain. No,
totally get
no,
that. All the women listening will say, I get that.
I get that. Yeah, like you are crazy. That was crazy. But before I got pregnant, I got Botox for the first time. Yeah, I did that. And I'll tell you what, I got Botox for the first time. And a week later, when the beautiful results set in and all the wrinkles went away, I was like, you know what?
Screw law.
I'm leaving law. I'm leaving law, and I'm gonna go open a medical spa. Hey, Flora, like, you want to also leave your job and come open a medical spa with me? What do you think?
Pretty much. It was to be fair, we always knew that we wanted to work together. Like we had businesses before when we were in college. So we'd always had this idea that we wanted to do something together. But she's in law, I'm in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Those fields don't really intersect in any positive ways, if you know what I mean.
No, not generally.
So we never really found the thing that we could do. And then, when we started getting Botox, and we're like, I can do this. And she's like, I can do this. And we're like,
and it's going to be a big deal. Like,
this really works. People are going to like this.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any, like you said, you worked together through school, but did your family prior, like your parents, have a family business, or were they involved in business or on any entrepreneur?
Our parents always said, like, I don't know where you two came from. I mean, we look just like them, okay? I mean,
which is a weird thing for your parents to say.
But like, this wasn't ever part of the culture of the family. We don't have a long history of it or something like that.
They were very, very displeased. And in fact,
didn't know what to make of it, really. Yeah. Like, we'd get it together at some point and
go back to academia.
Yeah.
And my father was he was a theoretical physics professor. So like the most academic of the academic, and he wanted me specifically to be a bench scientist. That's what he wanted. And so when I told him I was going to med school, he's like, oh, well, I don't understand why you want to be a glorified mechanic, but fine, and he kind of, and that's a quote. And I think he believed that I was going to come back to basic research science. And then when we opened a business, he just, he just didn't even know what to do. So.
Well, because it's very unusual. When you think of first generation family businesses, you think of a mom or a dad starting a business to sort of pay the bills. And then siblings end up as partners because of that, first generation transitioning to second gen. So it's nice to have something different, which is a first generation, but siblings together, because there is the rivalry with siblings and actually being able to work together. So this is really great. So you ended up going into this industry. So tell me, how did your research change from, aesthetic medicine, hormone replacement? How did that work? And how do you put that with the law? How did that actually, come together?
No, see, what happened is I left the law.
Completely.
Oh, yeah.
You just jumped.
I jumped. It's a cliff.
There was no research.
There wasn't. I mean, the things that I took from the law, they're just a couple. I was a trial attorney, And so I wasn't spending time in contracts. I wasn't a litigator. Being a trial attorney is about persuasion, and communication to a large degree. And so is business. And I also learned how to interview people. And interviewing is, as you know, mainly about asking a question and then listening and shutting your mouth, right?
Mhm.
And those
Which
are
is
the
so
two.
hard to do. I got to tell you,
Very
it's a very
hard.
hard thing to
I'm
do.
laughing because I'm not very good at it.
I'm not either. I have a hard time.
Right.
I have lots of
Everything-
scars on my tongue from biting it.
Yeah.
Right. I hear you,
Yeah.
Tammy. I absolutely. And so everything else I left. And it was a completely new learning and humbling experience to start brand new in a new industry
Yeah.
where nobody knew who I was. And I wasn't, important or special, or I wasn't an expert, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
And Flora, what was your background like when she suggested that you wanted to come together and do this
So
spa?
you want to talk about 180 degree, like I'm going that way now,
Yeah.
so I did emergency medicine and trauma for almost 15 years. Wonderful career. I absolutely loved it. But not just in some ways, in all ways, modern medicine can be very, very frustrating because you are always acting too late. Something horrible happens, you try to fix it, and something horrible happens, you try to fix it, but you're losing all the time, and your patient is losing all the time. And so I was definitely getting a little bit burnt out. So and we knew we wanted to have a business together. And so when the time came, it was just like, okay, well, I've got to learn the field of aesthetic and regenerative medicine, and it's been awesome. I am still learning. I don't consider myself an expert yet. The field is exploding in what it's capable of and what we are capable of. So same thing. We decide, well, we're doing this, and so
And then we just did it.
and then we because you can't learn to drive a car in park.
It could have gone terribly wrong.
Could have gone terribly wrong.
Several times, it felt like it was, right? I mean, that's just the nature of business.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so then you take that experience you had as a trial lawyer or attorney in the U.S. and you put that into your CEO hat. So is this just sort of say you have two lanes? So you're sort of the business lane and looking after the growth and marketing, and then Flora is looking after more the medical side. Is that sort of how you
100%.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
we are both big personalities.
Yeah.
And if we had intersecting responsibilities, there would be atomic war in the building like every day. And so the way that it works for us is we have really, really clear lanes. Like I am queen of all things medical. She is queens of all things, outside of medical. And that helps us. Those clear lines are really important for us to function well. Yeah.
And has that changed at all, the dynamics of working together and then being outside work as a family? Has that changed anything? Any dynamics?
Like the fact that we work together?
Yeah, like because now you're together a lot, right? You have your family, you work together, so you're together at work, and then when you're apart in family functions, do you spend a lot of time talking about work, or do you try to sort of
Our
separate the
husbands
two?
would say yes.
Our husbands would say yes.
It makes them crazy.
And to kind of make that even more, like we live 2 doors down from each other. So we have dinner together. We split the family responsibilities, and so we have dinner together 6 nights a week. And the kids, like are right next to each other. So, does it change the dynamic? I would say yes and no. I think there are pluses and minuses to everything in the world, right? And I think the benefit of being in a sort of, let's call it a large life endeavor, because it could be business, it could be art, it could be a passion project, whatever it is. But being involved deeply, in a deep life project, in some ways it makes the bond much stronger because, there's so much more to walk away. You can't walk away from it, similar to a marriage. But at the same time, like we don't necessarily have the ability to just like drop in on each other every now and then and be like, hey, how you doing? And it's all light and fun because, like it's this, as opposed to like people waving at each other through, the car windows. It's my husband talks to his sibling once a month on the phone. Maybe twice a month, and they have a lovely phone conversation, and they don't fight at all because there's nothing to fight about because they're not entwined. Their lives aren't entwined.
Right.
So I would say, both of those things are true. And, everybody chooses how they want to set up their life. And it does make our husbands a little bit.
It does make them crazy.
Yeah.
The thing is we started business endeavors in our early 20s. So in that we've had a long foundation of that. RESTOR is, we're both almost 50.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's been 30 years of this, and Restore is 13 years old.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, having children probably changed the way our families interact in a more fundamental way than the business.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't had practice with children.
So are you looking at the future and what this looks like? Because you've come together and you've put this great business together. Are you thinking of it now as a generational business? This could be something that could pass down to your kids. Have you talked about that at all? How old, and so I should back up. How old are your kids?
Early teens.
Yeah.
13, 12, 11, 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say we have not talked about that a lot. The kids would have to earn it is not exactly what they would have to love it and want it and earn it. It's definitely not something that's gonna be like, here, good luck, no matter what type of kid they are, what type of dream they have. Like a couple of our kids, I could see them running a business. A couple of our other kids, there's no way that they would ever be interested, so I think that's really TBD. They have to show passion for it.
I have seen second generation business owners, and it seems to me that is a blessing and a curse. I mean, it really can be both for the child.
Yeah.
And
especially if it's an expectation.
Especially if it's an expectation in any way, shape, or form. Like, it has to be both the best thing for the business, like the best person to take the business forward, and also the right thing for the child. I don't think us simply deciding I mean, that in some ways that's a selfish thing, right? Like us deciding, yes, we want this to be a generational business. Well, why? Is that about me or is that about them?
Yeah.
Like the legacy of our lives is not Restore. I mean, I would say it's our family before Restore. And so what serves the family? Like what, I'll just put it this way. What serves the Waples name? Like what serves our kids and their kids after them and their kids after them, if Restore is a part of that, that's great.
Yeah.
And if Restore is not a part of that, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that this is this time, because you have teens, is to start talking about that as there's a couple of ways. It's, do you want to actually work in the business?
Like now that I do want them to work in the business because I want them to.
Or do you want to have an ownership stake? Because as you both know, the hardest part is the first, 10 or 20 years of building the business.
Yes.
Right. And I think as a first generation business owner myself, and having already transitioned, that we didn't really talk about it as a family business or potential. It's like, well, they wouldn't be good at this. They're not interested. But there's much more to the business than running the day-to-day operations or being a physician or whatever it is that you want. But you can hire people, right, to run the business and still have an ownership stake. So again, it comes down to that legacy part and what you're trying to achieve. So I think this is interesting because you would have already had that conversation if it was your parents who had started the business.
Yes.
Right. And you can definitely have children in the business and not in the business. And still have that ownership or that legacy, because I know you were talking about expansion, right?
Right.
So if you expand and you have, 800 locations across North America, again, what does that look like? And how do you start having those conversations?
Right.
Well, they start by learning how to mop the floors.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And fold the towels.
Yeah.
And there's no ownership stake without putting in work and that is
100%.
First that. But yeah, to your point, there are the larger business gets, the more roles there are available for people.
But
I think
and that's the conversation, right? It's like, because you're coming together as siblings to be the first generation, you've already created complexity because you each have children. So it's not just transitioning to as in the case of your parents, to the two of you. It's now you're including 4. And, okay, well, you have to earn it. What does that mean? You have to earn it. You have to earn the ownership, but technically it's part of the estate. And how does that? So I'm just interested to see how you've started to think about that moving forward as your kids are aging and, looking about. Yeah.
I mean, in that we have thought about what comes next or what we want to leave our children. Restore surviving. I don't want to put that burden on them. If they come to it, if they choose it, then we would consider that, but that's a heavy lift. That's a heavy weight for a kid to think this is what's expected of me.
And also,
Oh yeah, there's the difference between expectation and are you interested and what does this
Yeah.
look like as a legacy moving forward, and
Mhm.
and again what you're looking at is all the other assets in your family,
yeah.
Right.
And I
family
think,
enterprise.
yeah,
This is just an
Right.
operating
yeah,
company,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about the role that money plays in a kid's life as they mature. And we both have pretty strong feelings that no kid should ever grow up thinking that they are going to step into a fortune when they're, 21 or 25 or whatever it is,
35,
35.
whatever.
And, I mean, we have set up our kids are still pretty young, but we have set up trusts and things like that where they don't get access to the trust until they have either earned an advanced degree or started a $1 million business or done something constructive with their life. So we have not thought about it that much, but I think we both feel very strongly that it's not something that just drops into the kid's lap as part of the estate. Like
Right.
that, I believe, wrecks somebody's ability to strive on their own. And I don't want to do that. So that I know.
Absolutely.
The rest of it, I don't know.
And I guess what would happen if you had a disagreement about that, about the way you wanted the legacy to move forward? Because the other thing is, if you've got 4 kids, and let's say all 4 were interested, how would you choose who would be the CEO? What if none of them are doctors? So, I mean, it's that conversation that you
Yeah.
start to have, right? Because it becomes more complex now that you're
Mhm.
bringing 2 families together, which I think is fascinating that you started a business when already more complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough enough
Yeah.
being a family. Now you mix in a business that's again complex, and now you bring in the fact that you're siblings
Yeah.
even adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things to think about. So I was just wondering what you'd sort of thought
You know,
about.
honestly, we navigate at our kitchen table. So we have when we were buying houses, we had to take a tape measure with us everywhere we went because we knew we needed a kitchen table that was 15 feet long, because that's how much space it takes to sit 10 people
Yeah.
every night, and then also be able to expand a little bit for holidays, right? So, dealing with the level of complexity that comes from living in what's essentially a clan unit as opposed to, a standard American family unit, we do that, every day.
Yeah.
And we have these hard conversations, these complicated conversations regularly, so, yes, are there going to be questions? Absolutely. Will there be fighting? Almost certainly. Of course there will be. How could there
If there's
not
no
be?
fighting, then you're going to have to bottle this and sell it.
Yeah,
Because
that someone's gonna. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and we will have those conversations as they come up, and I'm not, I am not afraid of those conversations. I think they're necessary and important, and we'll have them as they come up, and that's what being in a big family means,
Absolutely.
and that's okay, and something will happen, and we'll work it out.
So tell me a little bit more about Restore and what the future holds for Restore.
Well, at Restore, we're making aging optional, and that's real. Through aesthetic and functional medicine. And, who doesn't need that? So right now we have 3 locations in Metro Denver. We're opening up 4 and 5 this year. And the mantra has become 20 and 5. And that's 20 locations total in the next 5 years. And why is that? It's because we do
Because they're round numbers. Round numbers,
right? Such an incredible medicine. It would really be a shame to just keep it here in little, just right here in central Denver and not share it with a wider audience. The things that Flora is creating and the things that she is capable of with the clinical team. I mean, I have a responsibility to grow this so that we can spread this to more people, because it changes lives.
Yeah, we do a good job.
It changes lives.
So you talked about Botox, but what all does the spa do? What
Absolutely.
services are available?
So basically, the sort of the tagline for the clinical side is we want you to feel as good as you look and look as good as you feel. So what that means is, beauty from the outside in, vitality from the inside out. So we do a full line of all aesthetic stuff. We do lasers, tox, fillers, biofillers, regenerative aesthetics, all that kind of stuff, which is super fun. And then we also do, hormone optimization. And optimization the word for the field is longevity medicine, and that's a terrible name. And I'm doing my part to stand it. It's a terrible name because
it's functional longevity optimization.
It's not about living to be 120, bedbound in a nursing home. It's about vitality. It's about how long can you have a good life, right? Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to optimization, that's nutritional, that's functional, that's hormonal. But with those tools, we can make you healthy, as well as so you have vitality and beauty, and vitality and beauty just fit together like this. So that's what we do. We do longevity, vitality medicine, and we do regenerative aesthetics, and they just it's peanut butter really and chocolate. They go together so well,
and they're starting to bleed into one
regeneration. Yeah, it's because if you can regenerate skin, well, then you can also use those same techniques to regenerate muscle and bone, and the techniques that you use to create health, because really beauty is health, right? When we think about what we're looking at, what our eye interprets as beauty is really vitality and health. And if you can create that, the person feels good too. That the same techniques apply.
So that's really like your competitors wouldn't be doing that, right? They'd be doing just the products and not the actual inside as well as the outside.
There's very few.
I love that.
It's becoming more common, and I think we have always led the industry. I mean, in many things that we do, we're 3 to 5 years ahead, but this is where the industry is going. Yeah. Everyone's going to do this.
Well, that's amazing. So, believe it or not, we're actually out of time. But what I do want to ask, and I do like to finish every episode with 3 top tips that you would give to other families in business to make the, sort of the dynamics of co-partnership work or working with siblings. What are some of the tips that you would give?
So I'd say three tips for people sort of in a similar situation. Well-defined roles. You must have well-defined roles. It is very easy to tear relationships apart, over things that matter, and nothing matters more than a business is like a kid, So well-defined roles. The second thing I would say to anybody who, sort of family business is there's never a good time. There's never a good time to do it. There's never going to be a year where you have nothing going on. It's like having a baby. There is no good time. You just do it. And if you try to find a good time, and if you try to game everything out, you have no idea what's coming. You have no idea what's going to do in your life. So just do it. There's no point in trying to do anything else. And really, I only got 2. That's the depths of my wisdom. Well, but just do it and do it parallel.
I would do it parallel. I 100% agree with roles. I mean, that is so important. And here's the thing: a family business is a business. And so if 2 people have exactly the same skills, then they probably shouldn't be in a business. And just because you're family doesn't mean you should have a business. There are lots of other things you can do together. So I did not necessarily know that when we started the business, but it just has worked out so well because we have these completely separate roles. And there is no good time. And yes, start when, just start. I mean, that's true for all entrepreneurship, but if you happen to be a woman, if you could start before you have kids, that there is actually a benefit to that. You do have more bandwidth. And it does get a little harder.
Those infant years
once
are tough.
Those infant, the infant years are tough. So, and that's not, I don't know if that's a family tip necessarily, but
absolutely, because business and families are kids, adults, it's everything, teenagers, it's a whole kit and caboodle, right?
Right. Yeah, it certainly is. And I mean, many family businesses, it seems that many of them are the husband and wife team, right? That's very common. I would encourage women in those teams and those roles to take a really active role in the business, to be an equal partner. Not, sometimes I think you end up, especially in our industry, what you end up with is a male surgeon and the wife is kind of doing admin stuff, right? And maybe she's probably actually in half the time the person who should be running the business, but that's not how she sees herself, right? And I think really taking a step back and assessing what are our strengths, not just what are our accomplishments in terms of our schooling, but what are our strengths, and let that drive the roles in the business instead of necessarily the relationship or kind of societal norms. I think. Those are
I
the
love that.
things.
That's great because we tend to focus on our education. And really, there's a lot of strengths outside of our education that we tend not to put a
Yes.
lot of focus on. So that was a really great tip. So thank you very much for joining me today. I can't wait to go to the Restore Medical Spa. And honestly, like you didn't tell me, how long do I have to be there? Like, is this an ongoing process? 'Cause,
Depends on what you want.
Yeah, totally depends on what you're looking for.
so what is the website if people want to look you up?
Yeah, so the website is restormedicalspa.com. That's RESTOR, no E on the end of restore, medicalspa.com. And as I say, if you're in Denver, come find us. We're in the Central Park, Lodi, and Boulder neighborhoods, soon to be Greenwood Village and Lone Tree.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us. It's been a pleasure.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find Blue Roots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.